You are sitting in the kitchen after everyone else has gone to bed. The house is finally quiet, but your mind is still running through the list of things that need to be done tomorrow. If you are a firstborn daughter, you know exactly what I am talking about because you have been carrying the weight of your family since you were old enough to walk. You are the one who remembers the birthdays, the one who handles the emergencies, and the one who makes sure everyone else is okay before you even think about yourself. Most people see your strength, and they applaud it, but they do not see the cost of that strength. They do not see the little girl who had to grow up far too fast because there was a gap in the family that only she could fill. Maybe you are the person your parents call when things go wrong, even when you have your own life to manage. Maybe you have spent your whole life being told you are mature for your age, while you secretly wished someone would just take care of you for once. Maybe you have learned to swallow your own tears so you do not add to the drama already filling the house. Maybe you feel like you are the glue holding a breaking world together, and you are terrified of what happens if you let go. You have spent years being the reliable one, the steady one, and the one who never asks for help. And because you never ask, people have stopped offering. I am here to tell you that the exhaustion you feel is not a sign that you are failing. It is proof that you were chosen for a role that most people could never handle. The world looks at you and sees a natural leader who is simply good at taking charge. But God looks at you and sees a warrior who was placed at the front of the line because he knew the terrain was going to be rough. You were not given the most responsibility because you were born first. God chose you to be born first because he knew you were the only one strong enough to carry the weight of the family legacy. There is a reason you feel a different kind of pressure than your siblings. There is a reason why your mistakes always felt heavier and your successes always felt expected. The world calls it birth order. God calls it an appointment. You were appointed to be the shield before the rest of the family even knew there was a battle. You were appointed to be the bridge that carries the generation behind you into a better future than the one you inherited. If you have spent your life feeling like a third parent or like the silent CEO of a family that does not always say thank you, this message is for you. We are going to look at the truth about why God placed this mantle on your shoulders. We are going to talk about the signs that your position as the firstborn daughter was never an accident of biology, but a divine strategy. By the end of this, you will stop seeing your life as a series of burdens and start seeing it as a sacred assignment. The world says you are just the oldest child. God says you are the one he trusted to go first. Let that sit for a moment. Your life is not a mistake, and your tiredness is not a secret shame. It is the signature of a leader who has been serving in the trenches for a very long time. It is time for you to understand why God chose you for the hard path. Number 1, the burden of the third parent. It is the weight of caring for a family you did not create. Let's start with the truth no one wants to say out loud. You were a child who never really got to be a child. While your friends were thinking about games, toys, or what they wanted to do over the summer, you were thinking about whether your younger brother had his backpack ready for school. You were the one who noticed when the milk was running low, or when your mother's voice sounded just a little too tired. You became the person who noticed the empty fridge, or the unpaid bill sitting on the counter before anyone else did. You learned to read the room the moment you walked through the front door, adjusting your own mood to balance out the tension in the air. You might remember standing on a stool at the kitchen sink to wash dishes because you knew it would take one thing off your parents' plate. You were the one who stayed behind to help clean up after the party while everyone else went out to play. It was not always because someone forced you to do it. It was because you felt a responsibility in your bones that you could not turn off. You looked at your siblings and saw people who needed protection, even if you were only 2 or 3 years older than they were. You became the emotional anchor of the house before you even reached high school. You were the one people came to with their problems, their secrets, and their needs. And you learned early on that your own needs had to wait at the back of the line. Sound familiar? You know this feeling of being on call 24 hours a day, even when you no longer live in that house. This is exactly what we see in the life of Miriam. In the book of Exodus, we see a young girl standing in the tall grass by the river Nile. Her mother had placed her baby brother, Moses, in a basket to save his life from a king who wanted him dead. But it was Miriam who stayed. It was Miriam who watched. Exodus chapter 2, verse 4 says his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. She was not just playing by the river. She was a child functioning as a guardian. When the princess of Egypt found the baby, Miriam did not freeze. She stepped out of the shadows and negotiated. She suggested a nurse for the baby and managed to get her own mother paid to care for her own son. She handled a political and life-threatening crisis that would have broken most adults. Miriam was the firstborn daughter who had to grow up in a single moment to save the future of her people. You have been standing in the tall grass watching over your family for a long time. You have negotiated peace between siblings, managed emotional crises for your parents, and kept the babies of your family safe, even when those babies grew into adults who still depend on you today. God saw Miriam in the reeds, and He sees you in your kitchen or your car today. He knows that the third parent role was heavy, but He also knows that, number one, the peacekeeper's fatigue. It is the exhaustion of being the one who keeps the wheels turning, while everyone else is just riding the bus. Let me say this straight. You are tired of being the only adult in the room, even when the room is filled with adults. For the firstborn daughter, peace is not something that just happens. It is something you manufacture with your own time and your own energy. You are the one who senses the tension at the dinner table and quickly changes the subject before an argument breaks out. You are the one who pulls a sibling aside to explain why their words hurt your mother, acting as a translator for emotions that everyone else is too stubborn to express. You spend your holidays in the kitchen, not because you love cooking more than anyone else, but because you know that if you don't do it, it won't get done right, or it won't get done at all. You have spent years being the one who anticipates the needs of others before they even realize they have them. You see the glass that is about to spill. You see the bill that is about to be late. You see the sadness behind your father's eyes that your brothers completely miss. And because you see everything, you feel responsible for fixing everything. You walk through life with a mental checklist that never ends. While everyone else is laughing and enjoying the moment, you are thinking about the logistics of the next hour. You are calculating the drive time, the meal prep, and the emotional fallout of the Nubia conversation that just ended. It is a heavy, silent labor that no one thanks you for because they have grown so used to you being the reliable one that they think it is just part of your personality. They don't realize it is a choice you make every single day. Sound familiar? You know this feeling of being busy in your soul, even when your hands are still. We see this exact pattern in the life of Martha. We often hear the story of Martha and Mary, and people usually use it to tell us to be more like Mary. But for a firstborn daughter, Martha is the most relatable woman in the Bible. In Luke chapter 10, verse 38, it says that Martha was the one who welcomed Jesus into her home. It was her house. It was her responsibility. While her sister Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, Martha was, as the text says in verse 40, distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Martha wasn't being mean. She was being a firstborn daughter. She was looking at the logistics of feeding the Savior of the world and his 12 hungry disciples. She eventually snapped. She asked Jesus if he even cared that. Her sister had left her to do all the work by herself. She was experiencing the peacekeeper's fatigue. She felt invisible in her service. But notice that Jesus didn't tell her that her work didn't matter. He told her she was worried and upset about many things. He was acknowledging her internal state. Martha was the woman who kept the household running. so that Mary even had a place to sit. When their brother Lazarus died later on, it was Martha who ran out to meet Jesus first, while Mary stayed in the house. Martha was the one who had the strength to confront the situation, even in her grief. If you feel like Martha today, if you feel like the one doing all the preparations while everyone else gets to enjoy the presents, God wants you to know that He sees the work you do. He knows you are the one who makes the sitting possible for everyone else. He chose Martha to be the one who managed the home because He knew she had the capacity for excellence. But He also wants you to know that your value is not tied to how much you can do for others. So the question is not why they aren't helping you carry the load. The question is, can you trust that God sees the labor that goes unnoticed by everyone? Number 3, the mask of the strong one. It is the armor you wear so that no one else has to feel the cold of the world. Here is what nobody tells you. Being the strong one is a lonely assignment. As the firstborn daughter, you learned early on that your emotions were a luxury the family could not afford. You saw the chaos, you saw the stress, and you made a silent deal with yourself. You decided that you would be the one who didn't need anything. You became the one who didn't cry, the one who didn't complain, and the one who always had it together. You wear a mask of "I'm fine" so convincingly that now, even when you are actually drowning, people still come to you and ask for a life jacket. They don't think to ask if you can swim because you have spent your whole life walking on water for them. You have perfected the art of the private breakdown. You wait until the door is locked and the lights are out before you let the first tear fall. You process your greatest heartbreaks in the 15 minutes you have between work and picking up the kids. You have a crisis voice that sounds calm and collected, even when your heart is racing at 100 beats a minute. You have become so good at being the pillar of strength that you have accidentally taught the people around you that you don't have a breaking point. So they keep piling things on. They keep leaning. They keep expecting you to be the one who has the answer. The money, the time, and the emotional capacity to fix what they broke. You feel like if you ever showed a crack, the whole structure of your family would come crashing down. Sound familiar? You know the weight of a mask that has become so heavy you've forgotten how to take it off. This is the life we see in the story of Esther. Most people remember the crown and the beauty, but firstborn daughters remember the pressure. Esther was an invention, orphan, who was raised by her cousin, Mordecai. She was thrust into a position where the survival of her entire nation rested on her ability to stay calm and play a dangerous game. In Esther, chapter 4, verse 16, she says the famous words, "If I perish, I perish." But before she said that, she had to hide her true identity. She had to wear a mask in a palace full of people who would have killed her if they knew who she really was. She had to host banquets and smile at the very man, Haman, who was plotting to destroy her family. Esther was the ultimate strong one. She didn't have the luxury of a public emotional outburst. She had to be strategic, silent, and incredibly brave. While she was likely terrified, she carried the weight of her people's future behind a face of royal composure. But God did not choose her because she was made of stone. He chose her because He knew she could hold her peace long enough for Him to move the heart of the king. Like Esther, you have been wearing the crown of the family, keeping your secrets and your fears tucked away to ensure everyone else stays safe. God saw Esther in the secret moments of her fast, and He sees you in the secret moments of your exhaustion. You were never meant to be a statue that never feels. You were meant to be a vessel that carries God's strength because your own ran out a long time ago. It was not a lack of feeling. It was a surplus of courage. Number 4, the generational cycle breaker. You are the person God used to stop the bleeding in your family line, so the next generation could finally start to heal. Let's be honest. It is exhausting to be the one who has to unlearn everything taught as a child. You look at the women who came before you and you see a map of what you do not want to become. You saw the way your mother settled for less than she deserved. You saw the way your aunts held on to grudges for 20 years, over a holiday dinner. You watched the patterns of debt, the patterns of silence, and the patterns of, "we don't talk about that," take root in every branch of your family tree. One day, you simply decided that you would not carry the baton any further. You were the one who started asking the hard questions at the dinner table. You were the one who went to the counselor or the doctor when everyone else said, "we just need to pray harder." You became the difficult one because you refused the broken one. You made the phone calls to reconcile the relatives who had not spoken in a decade. Or you finally set the boundary and said, "no more" to the toxic behavior that everyone else accepted as normal. You have spent years feeling like the black sheep because you are the only one who wants to change the narrative. You have been accused of being too much or too sensitive simply because you decided that the legacy of pain ends with you. You have felt the loneliness of being the first one to graduate or build a stable home. It is a quiet, grueling labor to build a foundation on ground that has been unstable for 60 years. You are not just building your own life. You are renovating the entire spiritual architecture of your lineage. You do the heavy lifting of healing wounds you did not inflict, so that the children who come after you will never have to know the weight of the chains you are currently breaking. Sound familiar? You know this feeling of being a pioneer in a land that feels like it's fighting back against your progress. This is the journey of Ruth. She was not an Israelite by birth. She was a woman of Moab, a nation with a history of being outside the blessing. When her husband died, she could have stayed in the familiar cycles of her own culture. She could have stayed in the pain. But in Ruth chapter 1, verse 16, she made a decision that changed the history of the world. She said to her mother-in-law, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." She did not just change her address. She changed her spiritual identity. She went to a foreign land and worked in the fields from sunrise to sunset, picking up the leftovers so she and Naomi could survive. She was the firstborn daughter of a new legacy because she had the courage to break the cycle of her past and work the hard ground of a new beginning. She became the great-grandmother of King David and an ancestor of Jesus Christ himself. Your life is the field where the new crop is being planted. You are the one God trusted to pull up the weeds of the past so that the future could finally breathe. Every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness or boundaries over chaos, you are doing the work of Ruth. You are gleaning in the fields of your own life, making a way where there was no way today. God saw Ruth in the fields, and he sees you in your struggle. The cycle breaker has the hardest job to clear the rocks before anyone else can plant the seeds. The chain that bound your grandmothers is the chain you were chosen to break for good. Number 6, the school of the firstborn. The responsibility you did not ask for was the training ground for the authority you are about to step into. Let's look at this clearly. You have spent your life wondering why you had to be the one who was strong, while everyone else got to be soft. You wondered why you had to be the one who figured out the insurance, the one who navigated the hospital system for your aging parents, and the one who organized the funeral while your siblings were still processing their grief. You have been a project manager, a counselor, a financial advisor, and a logistics expert for your family. Since you were a teenager, you looked at your life and saw a series of burdens that kept you from being free. You saw a mountain of tasks that felt like they were stealing your time and your youth, but God does not waste a single tear or a single task. What you called a burden, he called a laboratory. While you were managing the chaos of your household, you were learning how to lead in the midst of a storm. While you were mediating the arguments between your brothers, you were learning the art of diplomacy that most people have to go to college to understand. You developed an eye for detail, a gut for discernment, and a backbone of steel. You learned how to keep your head when everyone else was losing theirs. You didn't realize it at the time, but every crisis you managed was a lesson. Every late night, you spent fixing someone else's mistake was a deposit into your character. You were being prepared for a seat at a table you haven't even seen yet. Sound familiar? You know the feeling of being the only one who knows where the fire extinguisher is in every situation. This is the life of Deborah. In the book of Judges, the nation of Israel was in a cycle of sin and oppression. They needed a leader who could see through the mess and hear the voice of God. Judges chapter 4, verse 4 says that Deborah, a prophetess, was leading Israel at that time. She used to sit under a palm tree, and the people of Israel would come to her to have their disputes settled. She was a judge, but in Judges chapter 5, verse 7, she is described in a very specific way. She says, "Villagers in Israel would not fight. They held back until I, Deborah, arose a mother in Israel." Notice that she was not just a political leader. She was a mother to an entire nation. She had the heart of a firstborn daughter. She was the one who saw the danger, the one who called the soldiers to battle, and the one who went with them when they were too afraid to go alone. She had the mothering instinct to protect, combined with the judge's authority to lead. Deborah did not become a leader overnight. She became a leader in the quiet years under that palm tree, listening to people's problems and finding solutions. She was a fixer. She was a peacekeeper. She was the one who stood up when everyone else was sitting down. God has been using your family life to build a Deborah inside of you. The administrative skills you learned while helping your parents, the emotional intelligence you developed while managing your siblings, and the resilience you built, all of it was training. You are a leader who has already been tested in the fires of real life. God didn't give those responsibilities to weigh you down. He gave them to you to build the muscles to lead others to their freedom. You have spent a lifetime believing that being the firstborn daughter was a burden you were forced to carry. You thought you were simply the unlucky one who got stuck with the work while everyone else got the grace. You lived with the false belief that your value was tied to how many fires you could put out and how many people you could keep happy at the same time. But that is not the truth. You were not given the most responsibility because you were born first. You were born first because you were the only one God could trust with the foundation of your family. You are not the family workhorse. You are the family architect. You are the one He chose to clear the ground, set the stones, and build a legacy that would not crumble under the weight of the next generation. I am talking to the woman who is still checking her heart at midnight to make sure everyone is safe, even though she is exhausted. I am talking to the daughter who feels like her mother's keeper and her sister's counselor, even when she has her own life to manage. I am talking to the one who feels invisible in her own strength. God sees the tears you cry in, the quiet, before you walk into the house with a smile. He sees the to-do lists that are etched into your heart. He knows that your hands are tired, but He also knows that those same hands are holding up a world that would have fallen apart without you. You have been the Miriam standing in the reeds. You have been the Martha in the kitchen. You have been the Esther in the palace and the Ruth in the fields. You have been the Deborah under the palm tree, judging the disputes and leading the charge when others were too afraid to move. The season of being the fixer for everyone else's mistakes is coming to an end. It is time for you to stop being the shield and start being the one who is shielded. It is time for you to let the Father carry the weight you were never meant to hold forever. You have done your job. You have broken the cycles. You have kept the peace. You have shown your siblings and your parents what it looks like to be faithful and firm and focused. But your identity is Laj, not the strong one. Your identity is the beloved daughter. Before you were a leader, you were His child. Before you were a peacekeeper, you were His treasure. Today, I want you to lay down the mask. Tell Him you are tired. Let the tears fall. Because the God who called you to go first is also the God who is standing behind you, protecting your back. He is not impressed by your productivity. He is moved by your heart. You have spent for much time making sure everyone else has a seat at the table that you forgot. There is a seat reserved just for you. It is a seat where you don't have to serve. It is a seat where you don't have to lead. It is a seat where you can finally just be. You were never meant to be defined by who stayed or who leaned on you. You were meant to be refined by the one who called you. You are the silent warrior God chose first. But you are not a warrior who has to fight alone. The battle for your family has already been won at the cross. You can put your sword down now. You can rest. You were not abandoned to this life of responsibility. You were appointed to it. And the same God who gave you the assignment is the one who will give you the rest.